Hey guys, welcome to Layman's Terms Podcast, place where we talk about really big topics using the smallest words possible. I'm Danny the bartender.
And I'm Tommy the trash man.
And together we're just two guys trying to explain the ever-changing world around us the only way that we know how. And guys, if you're listening, please make sure you subscribe. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you give us a like, give us a subscribe. It's not because we're trying to force you to do anything. It's more because we know how much you don't want to miss any of our episodes or content. So please make sure you subscribe. Am I right, Tom?
Absolutely. We need all the love and help that we can get. So I don't know about you, man, but I was a little bit bummed out the other day. There was a hip hop legend left the earth, man. Oh, look at that! That was perfect. Perfect. Yeah, we got a substitute in case anybody needs for somebody to pop up at Coachella.
Yeah.
DMX got a little lighter and a little long hair, but the growl's down.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. DMX passed, man, and it's sad, dude. I mean, I was 17 when It's Dark and Hell's Hot came out, his first album. And he kind of made some appearances on some other things, like Puff Daddy had him on a song with like the Locks and everything. And I was like really into Bad Boy and stuff at the time. So like I heard him, I didn't know who the hell he was. But dude, that album, when that came out, dude, that was fucking crazy album, man. Like that was like, we were still living in Southwest Philadelphia and you heard that shit everywhere.
Everywhere.
That was one of those albums, like I feel like for me at least, another one of the albums that was like huge that I just remember everybody playing was the Fugees.
Oh yeah.
That was an album that like everybody was fucking rocking. And it was crazy. Like he passed on my dad's 2-year anniversary on April 9th.
Oh shit.
But yeah, man, it was crazy because you haven't really heard much from DMX over the past, I don't know, 10 years, maybe even more. He's battled some demons. He's had some issues.
Well, my thing with DMX is I like, it's funny because I don't like a lot of the old 90s songs I remember verbatim,
Yeah.
But DMX it's funny because I mean I love DMX, but I don't really remember the lyrics. I remember I used to get on the bus and go to school, and you remember that one he had where it was like the whole song was like a prayer.
Yeah, he got a couple.
And I used to because the thing I loved about it is you can kind of say whatever you want, and I like if you didn't know the words, and I used to get on the bus, like the school bus and shit. And I would like say whatever I wanted in that like DMX rhythm and shit. And that was, just to get a laugh or whatever, because I was a young kid crying for attention. But, the other thing that whenever I think of DMX, and I've seen some people point to this now that he's passed, is it was like he wasn't necessarily different, but he was different. And I think it was more than the religious aspect to him. It was just, he's just one of them guys you can tell. Like, I mean, his raps were amazing. They weren't like different in the sense of like some of the other rappers that have come out where they're just completely different. But yet you could just tell this dude was a fucking animal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think with DMX too, which, for people that follow hip hop, it's always been very like alpha male, in terms of 2021, very maybe toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Which we don't believe in here, but that's what you would probably say about, hip hop, especially more so in the 90s, but the thing with DMX was like, even though he had that edge, there was like a vulnerability to him, you know, when he came out with that song, like I'm slipping, I'm falling, I can't get up. Like
Yeah.
that was like a really emotional plea. And it was like, wow, man, this was like really emotional. And just like other songs, like on his second album, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, he had the song I'm Ready to Meet Him, where it was like, you know, the first 2 minutes was just like him almost reading like the gospel or like talking to God. And then it goes into like how he's rapping and he's like having a conversation with God and switches his voice up, like deepens it, like as though it's like, you know, him being God. And dude, I listened to that song again recently, man. And I'm like, wow, man, it's just a powerful song. And,
well, do you remember, like, I remember the last like big thing I remember about DMX, although he's had to have been somewhat relevant, you know, in the past 20 years. But the thing I remember that to me was like the end of his career, even though it was already over as far as being like a mainstream artist.
Yeah.
Don't you remember he did something like crazy, like all that, like, in other words, you haven't heard of DMX in like 2 years. Then all of a sudden there was this wild story where he got arrested. I'm not sure if it was in a different country or just a state you wouldn't expect him to be in. And he stole a cop car. Do you remember this? It's all true, but
no.
Well, you know, for your own good, anybody out there, just probably search like DMX stolen cop car. It was like 2001 or something. But anyway, and you know, and he's fucking overdosed a couple times or whatever and got back in the news. That's the only time I've ever heard of him, was in like his, whenever he did something crazy in the past 20 years. But you know what I thought, I don't know if you saw that thing I shared on the gram, but it's not really that great of a thing. He's like jumping around with these guys and he's just singing some dumb song. And the reason why I shared that was I started like going down this rabbit hole with DMX, and the stories you hear about him are insanely awesome. Like shit you would never think.
Right.
Like in that story particular, it was a local comedian from Baltimore who said, I'll never forget the time when DMX came up to our thing. So basically DMX did some kind of show in the same studio as like Comedy Central. And when he was done, he went upstairs to like, you know, probably like a white kind of hipster kind of setup where these guys would do this little after hours fun show on the, you know, on the roof of the building. And DMX like said, I'm going up there. And they were like, they said the best thing about it was that he didn't have to be there. It wasn't like part of any gig. He just demanded that he was going to go up and hang out with them guys and jump around with them and shit. It's pretty interesting, you know? Then you find out he's got a daughter and shit that he like adopted some daughter who was already famous, but nobody knew that he like kind of adopted her. Did you see that?
No. And you know, I've heard kind of like similar thing, obviously, with him passing. There's been like a lot of people that are speaking out, telling stories, you know, and I saw one story that I was like laughing because they were like, he was at like Hot 97, you know, the New York's hip hop station. And I guess they were like drinking all day or whatever. And he was like hanging out. And they're like, dude, the thing about DMX was like, no matter if he had money or when he was struggling financially, no matter how big he got, like he was always the same dude. Like he didn't care. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he was the same dude when he was driving Bentleys as he was, you know, when he didn't have that. And they were like, and it was like, yo, it was so crazy, man. They're like outside, like smoking a cigarette or something. And he'd been drinking all day and he's like throwing up. Like he's all like acting wild, like blah, blah, blah. And then he like throws up and like, he's like, but like nothing even changed. Like they were like some dude was walking by and he was like, Freddie, yo. Like he's like, he was just like puking all over there. He's like, what's up? What's up, man? Come on. Like,
well, dude, is that the Hot 97 episode where he reads Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer in his voice?
I don't know, but he did release I don't know if he released an album of that, but he did do like
well, he was on Hot 97, and to me, it's exactly what I meant about like me being a kid on the bus. Like I'm not even going to attempt to do a DMX. I haven't heard him in so long. But basically, it was like he was just like somebody kind of made him said you could say anything like that, and people whatever. So they like dared him or something to do Rudolph, and he told like the story of Rudolph in that same style. And but dude, the other thing that was great too is that when I said about him adopting some kid, apparently I don't know if anybody, I don't even know who she is. She's a famous girl now, like she's like in her 20s, maybe she's still a teen, and she posted and like I was reading through the thread and people were like, what the hell is she doing with DMX? And people were explaining like she never really told anybody, but DMX kind of adopted her, but whatever. But the girls in her car singing, shake it off, the fucking like the Tyler Swift song. And you just see this dude leaning over from the passenger side going, what? What? It was pretty, and it was just interesting. Then Snoop Dogg shared it's the best thing I've seen. It's the best. I'm wondering because he doesn't mention it, but like I know this is why he shared it. I guess they did like a verses.
Yes.
Well, did you see the clip he shared? I'm so glad that that's the clip he shared too, where it's like the end. It's a 4-minute long clip, and 30 seconds of it he's rapping. Right, he's all fat, and he's like, I don't even understand verses. I don't know if they all do this. But like DMX had his song playing with words and he was just kind of screaming shit over it now and again. But he looked like he forgot all his own words and shit. But the best part was he's like, hey man, I gotta take a break. I'm gonna take a piss. And then he just like walks out and Snoop leaves. So DMX comes back by himself and it's just 4 minutes of like DMX sitting in the chair. Like I can't explain it because it's not really that interesting, but because of how you feel about DMX and the kind of guy you think he is, he's just like sitting in the chair, like rubbing his belly, and they have like some R&B music on in the background, and he's like jiving to the fucking, and it's like 4 minutes of him just in himself for fucking whatever. And I don't know, it's moments like that of people you would never expect, and I'm pretty sure that's why Snoop Dogg shared it because even that little non-verbal, post shows you an inside to a guy where he wasn't some heartless animal,
Yeah. So, that was the first time that I saw DMX in a while was with the versus thing. And strangely, I actually shared a picture of it because I was like, wow, man, DMX got big. Like he was a heavy dude. And again, I haven't seen him in a while, but like DMX was always like, like kind of like ripped. Like he was skinny, but like he was kind of a little bit jacked, you know what I mean? And like he was just heavy. And I was like, damn, man, time hasn't really, especially sitting next to Snoop. And like, yeah, Snoop looks a little bit older. He's got some grays and stuff, but Snoop still looks pretty good.
I thought the same thing.
And I was like, man, and DMX, and like again, I know the dude has had some drug issues. But yeah, so that was the thing. And did you ever, so like if anybody that doesn't know the verses, it's basically like you get two hip hop artists and they go and they kind of battle with their songs, and then people online, like they go hit for hit, and then people online go and vote on who they think won. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, man, and DMX was he really was a big 90s like. I mean, the dude was in movies.
Yeah, like that's what I was thinking when I was looking at the verses too. Like I'm looking at this kind of fat dude, and the way I ended up finding the verses was when I went down my rabbit hole. The girl that was his daughter, she started talking about how she was so mad, so afraid because when she found out her dad was going to be on Versus, she was like, she apparently she was like trolling through the threads and attacking anybody who said he was fat.
Yeah.
But with that being said, then I found the verses and I'm looking at him and I'm like, yo, he looks like an OG from the neighborhood, like right. That dude who's just kind of like, he ain't really that relevant anymore, but he's still fucking, the OG. But I'm thinking in my head, like, here's a guy who was in Belly, who was on top of the world. And I don't even know enough to say that he never, like, I'm not going to speak for him and say, and then he was not on top of the world anymore. I don't know what on top of the world is for him. But what I mean is, like, what a drastic experience to be the most relevant individual and then be like just show up next to Snoop Dogg, who's still relevant. Like you were saying, like how you think like DMX got fat and Snoop's the same. Well, maybe Snoop wouldn't be the same if Snoop has managed to stay not only relevant, but still put out fucking top songs, and he's what, like 50 years old?
Yeah, he's got to be pushing that. And again, man, it's just wild how big like when he came out, it was around the time when Jay-Z came out and some other guys, and his debut, like he was bigger than all of them. I mean, he was the top notch. He was the top dog, like for a few years there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like he probably was one of them guys that like on his first album, like progressed immediately to worldwide status. Like he was probably doing like shows in fucking every country on a tour.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean.
And,
Sold out.
Then his second album, like his second album was killer, and that was huge. I don't know about his third album,
but then you say like he came out around the same time as Jay-Z, and I could be very wrong. I'm more asking than telling, but I also feel like Jay-Z was out forever. He just became relevant to us. Like, in other words, there's like a joke in Hollywood or something where they say like it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. In other words, like people don't realize you've been around for a while.
Yeah.
But like, I don't remember anybody being like, oh, you got to hear DMX's older shit or, whatever.
Yeah.
It was like, he just came out. It was like fucking all of a sudden he was there,
Oh yeah. But speaking of Jay-Z, I did hear one thing that I thought was really cool. Apparently he bought DMX's masters and gave it to DMX's kids,
which I think his kids number was 17 kids. Am I right?
Oh, is it? I don't even know.
That's what I think it said. I read that too. It's funny that you even mentioned that too, because I was listening to some podcast that was like 2 years old, and somebody was talking about Jay-Z, saying that that Jay-Z does a lot of really actually genuinely good things and doesn't talk about them. And so literally right after hearing that, I'm like scrolling around and I get that post where he bought them masters, and I thought maybe he fucking really does. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and listen, as someone that was like in love with hip hop, growing up, obviously I had a great appreciation for Jay-Z. I mean, lyrically, he's amazing. What he does with his business, from the clothing line from Rock Nation to I don't know if he owns Tidal or if he's part owner or whatever, and just how many different business ventures the dude has gotten into. You can't do anything but to not give the guy props. I mean, he's really done an amazing job in a lot of things, even though there's certain things when it comes to social things and social aspects I don't agree with. But when a dude does something like that, man, you just, you got to give him props. I mean, it's, so, but in other big news, Danny, the bartender, returned back.
Oh my God. And my ass is killing me. Oh my God. Work. Oh God. I forgot what it feels like.
Yeah. So you went back and you worked like 3-4 shifts in a row or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was really busy, dude. We're busy, but there's no the problem with the coronavirus stuff is that you don't know why you're busy. We don't know why we're busy. So put it this way, without saying numbers, and I'm not talking about what I made. I'm talking about like the restaurant numbers. Our busiest day, we had like one of our busiest days last year was like 10 grand, which is busy when you only have like 3 people.
Yeah.
And my 4 days back to work, we beat that number every day. Like, in other words, that was like, we were ringing like 3, 4, like last year. And then like we'd have a 9 day or whatever. So we did over 9 every day. And we did over 15 on like Saturday. It was nuts. I wanted to chop my legs off.
I mean, dude, people have been locked up and, locked down. So like,
Well,
I guess people are just like chomping at the bits. Now, are you guys open at full capacity or?
Well, this is the thing that I just don't understand about the world. Nobody gives. Listen, I don't want to. I mean, if I don't want to fucking say anything about my particular job and get anybody, in trouble, but it's like it seems to me like the coronavirus fight is on Facebook. You know what I mean? Like
Right,
it's
right.
it's 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 like, but the thing I laugh about is my restaurant is oh well, dude, I got to fucking actually there was one situation at work where I'm glad you brought it up in a weird way. You reminded me, but it literally shows the problem with the United States right at this moment. So I get a lot of returning vets, not vets, but like basically, I guess somewhere in Baltimore is it must be like a briefing situation for like army dudes and stuff, Marines, whatever.
Mm.
And I always can point them out right away. So about 10 or 15 giant dudes from all different nationalities come up to the bar, and they're like overly respectful, but they're also like chaotic drink. They're acting like maniacs, but they're like, excuse me, sir. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I'm over to hearing them, and the guy says, yeah, we want, and I even said before they said it, I'm like 11 car bombs or whatever, and he's like, yeah. And then he's like, I hear the guy like, we waited 7 months for this or something, and the guy was like, we just had a Guinness in Ireland. So I knew right away, like what they do is they fly wherever these people are in the world. When they bring them back, they fly them into Shannon Airport and then fly them, and for some reason, to Baltimore. So I get this all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not even like thinking anything. They weren't doing anything weird. They weren't being loud. They weren't whatever. And I go down to the end of the bar, and all of a sudden, like I'm busy now because I'm dealing with 11 guys just walked in, and the restaurant's business busy, and they ordered 11 shots. And then what the army guys always do is they don't wait. Like right after I poured them these 11 car bombs,
Yeah.
the guy's like, we'll have 11 more, and they do that like
Right.
4 times.
Right.
I walk down the end of the bar, and this older couple's like, excuse me. I want to close out. I'm like, why? What's the matter? Those people down there aren't wearing their masks. And they kind of like had their mask down or whatever. But also, I don't know if you've been to a restaurant lately, but once you establish where you're at, you don't have to have a mask. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I sat there, I looked at the lady, I said, man, I don't know what the rules are. And I looked down, I thought maybe I was doing something wrong. I look over, the like 6 of them that were sitting down had their masks off. The ones that were standing up had their masks on. Maybe 1 or 2 of them were pulling them down while they were talking. So I said to the lady, like, those guys just literally just came back from their military, and they just came back from overseas. Like, the lady's like, well, I don't care. They should put their mask on. And I'm thinking in my head, like, that, like, really, this is where we are as a country? Like, fucking, you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna dismiss those people. I don't know if you felt what I felt when I sat there, but I was like, that's just horrendous. Like, that's really where we are in the world. Like, I've never in a million years had anybody say anything to me about military guys except for buy them a drink.
Right.
And now I have somebody saying they don't have their fucking masks on, so I'm leaving.
Right.
Like right after they come back from fighting for your freedom. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like how they were treated when they came back from Vietnam, But, and I actually, I saw a story, this one woman that I follow, and I'm drawing a blank on her name, Megan something. She's a social commentator. I've mentioned her before on this podcast. And she was like, all right, kids, I'm going to break something down for y'all. She's like, I was just at the gym, and this woman, I'm on the treadmill, and this woman was probably a couple treadmills down. And she goes in, and, I don't have my mask on. She doesn't have a mask on or whatever. And she starts coughing. And she's like, and I kind of looked over and I noticed. And she was like, and she's trying and she's asking me a few questions about certain things. And then she was like coughing again. And she's like, and I just decided, let me wipe down my machine and I'm just going to end my workout. And she goes, now I've always been a bit of a germaphobe, even before all this took place. She goes, so I probably would have distanced myself from that woman under any circumstance. And she said, but I just want to let you know that I left because it's not my place to tell somebody else to go to management or whatever to get that person out of the building.
Yeah.
She's like, I have freedom of choice that I can leave and I'll come back tomorrow. I'll go a little extra hard tomorrow. It's not my place to get somebody else kicked out because of my own personal preferences. And I was like, man, kudos to that woman. She gets it.
Well, it's the same way that like when we've said in the beginning, like I wear the mask for other people,
right?
But it's like someone that can be on the other side of that argument, but still understand that you're respecting someone else's rights, either which way it is, you know?
Right. I mean, I can't tell. I just going to local, Wawa, whatever. I've seen multiple people not have a mask on. And I'm not going to be like, excuse me, can you get this person out of here?
Do they go in without a mask on?
I've seen some people, and look, man, I went to the beer distributor the other day, completely oblivious. I was like jamming out to my music, got out of the car, went to go get a 12 pack, and I totally forgot my mask. And I'm walking around there like it was just normal.
Well, just
and it didn't even, there wasn't a whole lot of people in there. And it just never even dawned on me until I got to the counter and I saw that the people at the counter, they had masks on, but they had plexiglass and all. So, and they just kind of looked at me and I was like, dude, like, I know, like just something to beer. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, what do you want me to do now? Like,
well, I also think though, the thought of it, like, and now that you're saying it, I'm even thinking it more where think about like, how the situation is, what you're saying with the mask. If you were like, basically some of us wear the mask. So it goes even with what that lady said about the lady at the gym. If you're scared of the coronavirus, before you leave your house, you say, I need my mask. For me, I leave my fucking house because I don't care. And then my brain goes, fuck, that's right. I can't get in any fucking place if I don't bring my mask. So it's kind of like they're really like, you know what I mean? Like if you're scared of the coronavirus, you get your mask before you leave your house because you're like, the CDC tells me I won't get the coronavirus if I do this. But for me, the mask is constantly like something reminding me that I won't be allowed access without my display of fucking sanitary,
of compliance.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was really cool.
It's a different. I haven't heard any like that. Like I don't. I hope I hope you understood what I was saying. Where it's like it's really that is a point made from someone who I don't know what her politics are. She doesn't seem to be like a leftist, but it sounds like a left kind of thought process. But with I'm not trying to put anybody down, but I mean it just sounds like someone on the left having an understanding for someone on the right. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I certainly don't think she's a leftist.
Yeah.
But and speaking of veterans, soldiers, a lot of stuff going on in the world. And again, we're at like some social unrest. So I'm not sure. I'm misinformed, I guess, on everything with this situation, but there was a sergeant or somebody in the Army, Marine, I believe he was in the Army, half black, half Mexican, pulled over at a gas station. Apparently he just bought a Tahoe, whatever the case, they didn't have plates. And the cops were telling him step out. and it was being filmed. And the whole time he's like, man, I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm nervous. I'm nervous. And he's in his army fatigues. And you could tell that the cops were being, in my opinion, like I thought they were being a little bit overly aggressive. Now, again, I've defended the cops multiple times. I mean, I can't possibly imagine what it'd be like, especially in today's day and age, being a cop with so much animosity from society against you, you know, and the portrayal of jerks in the media. But this one cop, man, he kind of, you know, he said something like, when the guy was like, I'm scared. And he's like, you should be, son, you're about to ride the lightning. Like, just weird things like that. I'm like, what the fuck?
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck that means, but like, it's just weird. And then, you know, needless to say, they're arguing with this dude, and the one cop seemed like he was not really okay with kind of what was going down. And then they wound up pepper spraying him, and eventually he got out of the car. But the whole time it was a little bit weird, because like, from somebody that's like in the army, like, you would think that he would be somebody that knew how to follow orders. You know, that would be one of his number one priorities. So I did think it was a little bit weird that he wouldn't just comply, but you could hear it in his voice, like the dude was scared. But at the same time, it's like, dude, if you don't have nothing to hide, man, like, you're going to be okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, just get out of the car and stop saying, I'm scared, I don't want to get out of the car. Because by you saying that, you're making them scared, because then they're thinking, is this dude hiding something? But it was an unfortunate video. And you know, we had that, and then we just have this new other video, this new kid, this just happened. And again, I don't know where it was. I don't even know the dude's name, but I just watched the video. He was pulled over, apparently had a warrant, and it looked like they had him about to cuff him. And then I don't know what happened to this other woman cop. She came over, and she was, I guess, maybe going to help or whatever. And he just pulled his arms away, hopped in the car, and he's like, kind of like trying to kick them away. And then like, she's saying, taser, 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 taser. And you don't really hear it, but it goes off. He speeds away, and she's like, oh my God, I just shot him. Oh my God. So like, you could I don't know how you confuse the taser with a Glock, especially a trained police officer. The only thing I can imagine is that under those circumstances, you know, when somebody pulls away and gets in a car and is about to try and flee, you're obviously, your adrenaline's pumping, and maybe you just grab it, because she was like kind of like pointing at him for a while, like she didn't know what to do, you know what I mean? And the dude wound up dying. And she claims, she's like, I thought I had my taser. Again, I don't know what the fuck this kid is doing. Like, because again, for anybody that isn't aware, like I think we talked about it on the last podcast, where there was a woman in Tennessee who the cop was way too lenient and way too nice. And kind of the whole time I'm watching this video, she's like standoffish and out of the car. And I'm like, bro, you need to put her in handcuffs or something, just for everybody's safety. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't find anything, take the handcuffs off, be on your way. And she gets in the car, she shoots him, he shoots her, she dies, he's in the hospital. And it's like, just that split second, man.
Well, that's a perfect example. If you watch that video, that's a perfect example, I think, in defense of what police need to be ready for at all times, because I didn't even see that coming. Now, like, I thought that woman should have been dealt with accordingly. But the thing is in the world we live in today now, I don't even know what the rules are. Can you grab her? Can you cuff her? Whatever. But when she got in her car, I never expected. I was still taken back by the video, thinking, did she shoot him or he shoot her? I'm confused.
Which one? The most recent one?
The one you're talking about. No, in other words, no. Like I know what happened in the end, but I'm saying when I first watched the video, she sits down in the car, and when I hear gunshots, and I'm thinking she shot him, kind of. Or, the cop. All I'm saying by it is I never expected it to happen because I didn't see that coming from her. Like in other words, if he would have shot her dead before she did anything, the story would have been all she did was stole a pack of cigarettes or something. You know what I mean? Like I would have I never saw the moment where the cop became in actual danger. I just saw 5 minutes of why don't they just arrest this woman? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then all of a sudden it was like, looked like he was shooting and maybe she was shooting. I didn't know. But this is the dude. I didn't know we were going to transition into this stuff yet. But something I was going to tell you was I was coming home last night to my, coming home from work. And I get to my corner and there's cops all over the place. So I turn the corner. There is like a group of kids, right? Maybe 3 like little skinny dudes and like 4 heavyset girls. There's one cop in the middle of them. They were fighting with the cop and I had to walk through them fighting. Like they were like pushing on each other and the cop was in the middle of them. Yeah. So I'm literally, it's 2 doors down from me on the corner. They're right there. It took me forever to get in. I didn't even want to fucking watch it. I'm sitting there and I'm looking over and dude, it was the sorriest situation I've ever seen. It must've been a car accident. I don't know what it was, but you had the girls yelling at the dude. Why'd you take a picture of my car? Like, I guess an accident happened. So the dude took a picture of the car. She's saying over the cop, like, why the fuck you take a picture of my car to the kid? Next thing you know, the boys are trying to fight the girls. The girls are trying to fight the boys. The cop's in the middle. But when I was like, I'm just going in the house, I'm looking over and I guess there was some cars filled with other people that maybe were involved, but not involved where the police, they were just kind of hanging back, waiting for their friends or something. Mm. So then when it turned into like a brawl, fucking people were jumping out of their cars, like, and running over. There was one cop in the middle, dude. And he was going like, stop. Hey, stop. And then more cops came. I went in my house. The shit went on for like an hour outside. And then I got a notification on my Citizen app as I heard an ambulance come. So somebody got fucking hurt. So then it was like teen hurt in assault or something. But dude, I'm sitting in my house and I'm thinking, if this is how policing is going to be, like, we're done. Like, there's no there like that. Like, if one cop can't show up to, like, I didn't even feel safe. Like, I'm sitting there and I'm going like, I need to get in my house, even though the cops are here. I need to get in my house. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And it's like, I really think that what has been done to policing is it can't be fixed. What we have done as a society, the message that we have sent to people about police and the attitude that they need to have when they are in situations with police, towards police. I mean, this ain't something that just get fixed because you put more cops on the street or something, because I don't know who wants to be a cop. This is like a generational fix that needs to take place, because even like you said about that kid that just he was supposed to be tasered, but he got shot. Right. Now that sounds like a complete mess up by the police. I mean, there's no excuse for that except for I hope it was an act. I mean, it's a horrible ending either way. I hope it was a legitimate accident at least, but at the same time, where are people getting off thinking they could wrestle through the police and just jump back in their car and drive off. Like, first off, what is the result of that? Like, you ain't getting away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing, because let's say you get away. I mean, there's already apparently there was already a warrant out for his arrest, right? Now, there's been some video that has surfaced of the kid, and he's like on like YouTube or his like Instagram, whatever, like playing with guns and shit like that. So like, you get away this time. So now the cops have your description, they have your vehicle, they have all your information. Now they know the last time there was an interaction, you wrestled with the cops and got away. So the next time when somebody pulls you over and that information pops up, now again, you're putting yourself in a high risk situation.
Well, you're putting yourself in a high risk situation, and then when you get to court, you're putting yourself in a, like, you don't get any, like, if his warrant was for, like, you know, he stole a car or something, you know what I mean? Well, now your warrant is that when they tried to get you for that warrant, you evaded police officers, you know, and resisted arrest and jumped in your vehicle and, you know, and sped away. And who knows where that would have resulted in. I mean, I'm not speaking for a dead kid. It's a fucked up situation, I guess. But I'm just saying, like, I mean, am I wrong to think that I don't understand how these people are processing logic? Like, even when you're talking about the army guy, like, I don't know what happened right before that video. So it kind of starts when their guns are drawn. I don't know how long of the video you watched. I watched the one when the guns were drawn. Mm-hmm. And like, look, I've dealt with military guys that I don't fucking like, that I think are assholes, that their friends thought were assholes, you know?
Right.
And I remember somebody explaining to me about how the military is so big that it has its own problems like drug dealing, problems like domestic abuse, problems like two guys fucking getting in a fight, problems like murder. It's its own community. So, you know, just because someone joins the military doesn't mean that they're instantaneously a great person. So therefore, they're going to be getting pulled over for a DUI, or they're going to be getting in trouble for things. So I don't know what that guy did, but what I don't understand is, I feel that he could have, if he didn't do anything, being someone who takes orders, you know what I mean? Being someone who knows how to be authority and deal with authority. I don't understand why he didn't just kind of, like, what is he scared of? The guy's like, he's a military guy. Like, what was he so afraid of? And then, now I didn't hear the ride the lightning part. That's kind of fucking crazy. I'm not saying he didn't say it. I'm saying I just didn't hear it. But I remember when they were putting him on his knees or something, they told him to get down. He was like, but I'm a sergeant in the military. And the guy's like, dude, you could, like, one of the cops literally said, like, dude, you could have made this so much easier. Like, it seemed like he was mad. Like, you're in the military. I know. Why did you do this? Because I also think that what people don't understand is, if you go up and you get a call like, yeah, we think we got hot plates or something, this guy's got no plates. And then they're like, all right, pull him over. And the guy's like, it's my car or something, like, or, you know, I don't get out of my car. It's my car. It's like, what are they supposed to do? Go like, okay, I'm sorry, man. Go ahead. I don't get it. And then I think I don't know if anything like this has ever happened in your life, but it's like, you ever engage somebody who you're kind of wrong about, but now you need to address their reaction? Like, maybe I've done it in a bar where I go over and I say somebody says that guy stole my phone or something, and you go over and your interaction with them turns it into a way bigger situation. And in the end, you find out he actually didn't do anything, but you have to address his reaction, you know?
Right.
You have to.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I've had bad interactions with cops. You know, little side story. I was parked out front of my mom's house with this girl. This is going back over 10 years ago. And we're making out in our back seat. And the cops pull up. Like, they drove by once and they saw us. So they drive back around and they say, like, we're in the back of our car, like, we're making out. And they pull up behind us on the second come around. So they come up to the window and they're knocking on the window and they're like, you know, what's going on? And she's like, oh, nothing. Like, we're just talking, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, you know, what's your name? Blah, 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 all this stuff. And I was like, I live right here. I actually work for that township. And he goes, oh, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I told him some names that people that I worked with. And he was like, I don't know, man. This dude's saying he works with such and such, blah, blah, blah. But like, I don't fucking know, man. And he's like, step out of the car. And she's like, you know, what's going on? And she's like, she's got to like button up her pants and shit like that. And like, and he's like, I just need to know that there's like no, you know, sexual assault or anything going down. And she's like, it's fine. We're fine. And he goes, all right, go in the fucking house then. Like, I understand that he's probably there's a chance that he maybe could have come into contact with people where that was maybe there actually was sexual assault going on. You know what I mean? Maybe there was a time that he drove by a car and saw that same situation and didn't think anything of it and just drove by and he was like, whatever. And it turned out maybe somebody got hurt, somebody got injured. You never really know. You know what I mean? But like, I could have escalated that situation and just freaked the fuck out and be like, oh, you're a jerk off. Like, I told you I live here. Like, they don't know. I mean, people from the outside, when we look at these videos, like the video of the military sergeant, whatever, people look at these videos and they think that like when a cop pulls up and the person's like, oh, this is who I am. Like, criminals are always honest. And I'm not saying that guy was a criminal, but these dudes come into contact with the worst people you can ever come in contact with. So 9 times out of 10, they pull up to somebody, you know, that's committing a crime or has done something wrong. They're not going to give them the right information.
Well, not only give them the right information, but you're making me laugh now because I'm thinking, I would say 10 out of 10 times when they're doing real police work, the answer that they hear is, I'm not doing anything. So in your case, it's just like when you're in jail and they say everybody in here is innocent.
Right.
You know? So it's like you're dealing with a guy who every first encounter, and this is kind of what I mean, even, you know, when I was saying about being in the bar, it's like when I have to approach somebody in a situation where they're being accused of maybe stealing, maybe whatever, sometimes you have to engage like you're some type of authoritative figure until you can ask a couple of things and you're reading. Basically, you have to be a dick and then you read the body language and the behavior of the individual to see how you're going to move forward with the situation.
Right.
Because you know you're going to get, wasn't me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, you know, it's a tricky thing. Now, to say something else though, cops are fucking assholes. Like I've dealt with cops where I'm like, this guy's a fucking asshole. And my biggest argument with people is not saying like, you know, like don't let the cops do whatever they want and that they're not assholes or that they never are assholes. It's the same thing. Like I said about the military, it's its own community. There is a guy in there that's a great cop. There's 10 cops there that are great cops. And then there's 2 or 3 guys that are fucking assholes that have been there too long. And they think that they're, you know, they got in it for the wrong reasons. But I guess what I'm saying is it's the same reason why you should stop at a red light, you know, or whatever. It's like, you know, if I'm in a situation where I'm dealing with an asshole cop, then it's in my best interest to not push that asshole cop. And I'm not talking about because I think he's going to kill me. What I'm talking about is like, if you'd have escalated that situation that you were in, which was not really a big situation, you could have ended up getting all kinds of weird fucking tickets and offenses for like having sex in public, or, you know what I mean? Like they'll do whatever they want. So you just go like, I'm a nice guy. I work around here. I whatever. Like the last thing you do is say like, you ain't got no fucking right to talk to me. What did I, you know what I mean? Like you're going to get yourself in a situation. And that's what I think is scary because me and you don't fully understand what the fucking police officers have the power to do from what I see. Like, just like we can't figure out if you have the right to run over a protester if they're trying to kill you. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like, if me and you who are trying to figure this out can't figure this out, well, I feel like there might be some 16-year-olds out there that might be getting the wrong idea of what they are supposed to do when a police officer stops them, whether the guy's an asshole or the nicest guy in the world, you know?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. The going back to the kid that got shot recently that just happened, it was actually in Minneapolis because it's in the same place, with the George Floyd thing. And now there's Summer of Love 2 is starting. There's some riots and protests going on in Minneapolis. And we have the I don't know how long that's going to last, but we also have the George Floyd trial, who's that's currently underway. And I from everything that I'm hearing, man, it's the prosecution seems like they're dropping the ball. And the one thing that really concerns me, that I going back to another high profile case that kind of, to me, changed the trajectory in the legal justice system and race in America, was with O.J. Simpson. Now, obviously, I'm pretty sure that just about everybody knows what happened during the O.J. trial. I'm pretty sure that everybody was probably on agreement that O.J. Simpson murdered Ronald Goldman and Nicole Brown. I would think most people believe that. Is there a possibility he didn't? I guess so, sure, but 99% chance that he did it, right? Well, the defense, they didn't prove that he was innocent. They proved that the LAPD was racist. You had Mark Furman, who planted the bloody glove, which is fucked up. And that's something that should have been dealt with outside of the other evidence that they had, like blood in the Bronco and, whatever else. When that happened, when they said that OJ was not guilty due to racism of the LAPD, that completely changed everything, because you just tried to say that because he was black and because LAPD is racist, that he's not responsible for killing two people. That completely changed the game. And now with George Floyd, now every time we're seeing this, and now a lot of people in the African American communities, whatever, they get super emotional about these things because the media tells them that they're oppressed. All of this narrative that they're still being oppressed by the police. And to some extent, there could be some elements to that. But now with this trial, you have witnesses that are coming on, and the prosecution's asking them, well, how did you feel that day? Like, and the witnesses that were there during the George Floyd, they're like, oh, we can't sleep. And, it's horrible. And that has nothing to do with what actually took place. And it's such a fucked up dynamic that, what the defense is, or the prosecution is trying to prove, because there's conflicting reports. I mean, I don't know all the details, and maybe a little bit more than I do, but from what I've heard, they've had certain doctors that come out and said that they didn't think that he died of asphyxiation. The sergeant a black guy that's the head of the police department, said that it wasn't police policy, but I just saw a video that showed that it was part of police procedure. So I don't know. Now, obviously, Derek Chauvin was fired the next day, but if there's evidence to show that this is part of police procedure, then I don't know why this lieutenant, sergeant, whatever he is, would go on there. Now, and I also just saw a video of George Floyd from 2019 where he was crying, asking for his mama, and he got right in the cop car. And he was still alive after that. So that further pushes the narrative that if you just comply, you have a very low probability of being killed to begin with. And if you just comply and don't resist, that even lowers those chances even more. And there were other reports, that police reports that George Floyd in another incidents was saying, "I can't breathe," all these things. Now I've seen multiple videos of people coming out and reenacting the George Floyd scene with people kneeling on their necks, and they're like, "I can breathe." Like my face hurts, my cheekbone hurts from being pressed up against the ground, and I'm uncomfortable, but I can breathe. And the doctor was saying, listen, his arteries were like 75% blocked because of the amount of drugs in his system. And when you're in those cases, your adrenaline, like, I don't know about you, but when your adrenaline's flowing, like, dude, my back tightens up. Like,
oh yeah,
your body,
like sore for a week just because you got mad at somebody.
Yeah, like my back, and like you have that fight or flight reaction, So like this doctor was breaking down. He was like, your kidneys or whatever is producing all this adrenaline, extra adrenaline, and it's putting all this extra stress on your body. And due to the fact that he had all those drugs, due to the fact that he had, his clogged arteries and issues with his heart, this all contributed to his death. But the national narrative is that Derek Chauvin, this racist cop who just went out, put his knee on there for 9 minutes and killed this guy. And look, I think it was irresponsible. It was hard to watch, especially when you did see him crying and crying out for his mom and things like that. It was really difficult. And I got choked up watching it. But when you start to look at other videos of him being arrested, when you start to look at other evidence that comes into play, you start to realize well, okay, even though Chauvin was irresponsible and probably excessive, that doesn't kill everybody that he does that to. You know what I mean? Yeah, and on top of the fact that it didn't need to happen to begin with if you just would have gotten in the car.
Well, do you remember I said his friend pleaded the fifth, the guy that was in the car with him?
Oh, yeah, because he sold drugs and now he doesn't want to be indicted on murder charges. Right.
So, and then his girlfriend testified that in the past month, Floyd had OD'd twice and was I think had to be fucking revived or brought to the hospital from taking bad fentanyl drugs from not from the guy he was buying from that day, but he OD'd twice in this month. I mean, not this month, but the month of the incident. And it sounds like we're just two white guys trying to say why, oh, well, he's a criminal or he's whatever. No, well, here, dude, I have the perfect case to put next to this. If anyone out there believes that the two girls that killed the Uber driver in DC got a justified sentence or doesn't believe it, do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, but just in case anybody doesn't,
two girls attempted to steal an Uber driver's car. He was like a 60-year-old guy.
Older than that.
And I think it was 68, was he?
Yeah, something.
But either way, they tried to steal the guy's car with a taser, and the guy kind of resisted them, and they were, he was had his door held open, and he kept, trying to take his car back, saying it's my car. And so they sped off with him on the car. They went about a block where they crashed, and the guy literally was like lying there dead on the street with it, and the car was flipped over, and the girls went back, and all they were concerned about was their cell phone.
Yeah, well, we talked about this on the last podcast.
Well, anyway, they got a slap on the wrist for it, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you want to make the argument to me, because I think they should have got murder and went to jail.
See, the problem with that, they're 13 and 15. So like,
you're missing my point though. My point is
because I don't. This is the well.
No, my point is that Derek Chauvin could be guilty of a couple of things that will give that he. Like in other words, what I'm saying is in not in every case where somebody dies and it may have had some type of responsibility on you, does the result, like in other words, this is the thing. They want Derek Chauvin to go to jail for eternity. You know what I mean? Right. They want the verdict to be guilty of like first degree murder, Right. And so anything less is going to be unacceptable. Well, I thought that those two girls should go to jail for the rest of their lives, but they didn't. And I thought, why? And then people explained to me all these different reasons why, and I have to accept them. I have to trust in the law, right? Because we can't just arrest them two girls because a lot of people think they should go to jail forever.
Right.
You know what I'm trying to say? I understand their two cases are very different, but what I'm saying is if you want me to accept that them girls who did commit murder are in some way not necessarily, they're like, in other words, as far as I'm concerned, if it was not to be about how they were going to be sentenced, if someone was arguing with me that they weren't technically responsible for that man's death, my argument back would be they murdered him. He would not be dead if it wasn't for them.
Right.
Someone's argument about Chauvin would be the same argument. However, there are laws and there has to be certain procedures that take place that would indicate whether someone is actually directly responsible for murder. And murder, the what they're trying to get Chauvin on is not only like murder, but I think they also have to prove like he kind of fucking did it like purposefully, And so it's one of them things where I don't know if Chauvin, I'm not sitting here trying to argue that he's innocent or that there weren't certain things he could have done that he didn't do. But I also would imagine that I've seen many cases in my life where people don't get the result that you think they should because they technically didn't do, they are responsible for that death, but the sentence they get will be different based on the situation. And I just think it's not going to fucking go down the way people want it to. And if it does go down the way certain people want it to, it's going to be done so that there's no problems like there is right now in Minneapolis.
But I think it will cause problems because I think a lot of cops are going to be like, dude, I don't need to risk my life on a daily basis if the justice system isn't going to look at me as like, look, we're fighting a war to keep streets safe. Like the difference between what happened between Derek Chauvin and George Floyd and those two kids and that Uber driver was those two kids made a decision to rob that car. That Uber driver was just trying to defend himself and stay, in the car. And because of their decisions, they died. George Floyd is still responsible in his own way for his own death because he decided to go in and hand, fake bills. And then the police were called. The police didn't just show up and decide to pull him out of a car and put a knee on his neck. You know what I mean? They were called to the scene of a crime to begin with.
A scene of the crime that he wouldn't leave, that he sat outside the store for like 30 minutes in the car, getting high. I assume. I mean, he's sitting in the car with his drug dealer and he's high, and he wasn't even like basically they came out and gave him three. They were literally like pleading with him, like, look, just give me the cigarettes back. Just give me back the cigarettes. And he's like, fuck you. So, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
if you
So
drove off, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
yeah, I mean, but regardless, the fact that there is an element to George Floyd's death that is attributed to George Floyd and his actions that day. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people want to make the comparison like, oh, if I go out and punch somebody and kill them, I didn't intend to kill, but if their head hits the ground, they die. Like I get charged, as opposed to a cop that does it. Well, a cop that usually doesn't just walk up to random people and punch them in the face for no reason. Cops usually there for a reason. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, there's a lot of things with that's just really unfortunate. And it's going to be, unfortunately, man, I don't think it's going to turn out the way that people want it to. And you're going to continue to see a lot of shit in the media, a lot of bad press that's just stoking the flames in this country. And just going by what you're seeing now in Minneapolis over the kid getting shot, I'm a little bit nervous at what could potentially happen.
Well, especially because I want to make the argument. I want to make the argument that look, that's what happened. You know what I mean? I want to, but then this fucking taser situation. It's like, really? What the fuck is going on in Minneapolis then? You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? You know? And I don't know, man. It's just fucking, it's like I'm not saying that what just happened changes my thoughts on Chauvin, but what I'm saying is really, I don't even understand, like you said, how did this fucking girl make this mistake? It's really what you're gonna do this a week or two into the trial. And I'm fucking, listen, I don't have any fucking thing to say about it, but I'm starting to believe there's no fucking coincidence. There's no such thing as a fucking coincidence, because it just seems like at all the right moments, there's always the right fucking fuel for the fire these days. There's all these fucking incidences that are just fucking perfectly aligned with fucking people trying to push fucking policies and whatever. And I don't know if it's because these things happen every day and they choose to highlight them when they choose to highlight them, or how they choose to highlight them, or what. But I could say this, I would have been unsure of, I could have said, I don't know what the outcome's going to be if Chauvin gets released. Now I know what the outcome's going to be, you know?
Yeah. And absolutely. I mean, we've talked about this multiple times on this podcast. Without a doubt in my mind, are these, narratives pushed for a reason. I had a girl that I used to date. She inboxed me the other day, and she goes, "Hey, I haven't talked to her in a while." And she goes, "Hey, just out of curiosity, when did you become so conservative?" And I'm like, well, I don't even know that I really like to say I'm like so conservative, because I really have a distrust for both parties and mainly all politicians. And there's a lot of things that I'm in line with when it comes to libertarians and just a lack of government intervention in our lives, period, and just believe in the Constitution. But there's also a lot of things about them too that I kind of like, I don't even know how the fuck that would work. But anyway, and I basically said, I'm like, well, I always have respect for authority, and that's number one. And I think that's one thing that a lot of times when people are like, oh, you're conservative, you must be racist or this, it's like, look, I've always respected authority, whether it was teachers, police officers, parents, elders. Like I've always had a respect for authority. So that doesn't really align with most leftist ideas. You know what I mean? So like that, and I was like, and listen, like I used to play the blame game. Like I used to be that person that because of, you know, the way my job situation was or whatever, I used to kind of blame rich people or just society as a whole. And then I just kind of got to this point where there was just a few different things happening in my life that I just kind of recognized and saw the flaws in my own mindset. And I was like, look, everything that I've done, every relationship, every job choice, every financial decision I've made, it's all my choice. You know what I mean? Like nobody forced me to buy cars or spend, you know, hundreds of dollars at a bar one night. Like everything is my choice. So that's why I can't really get into the progressive liberal ideologies, because it's kind of like everybody just wants to blame other people. And again, like we talked about, the oppression politics and identity politics, they're always clashing. Like because you can't blame, like you just want to kind of pit everybody against each other and blame just white people or white supremacy, whatever. But then there's other aspects of other people that are kind of clashing, kind of like what we're seeing now with one of the Black Lives Matter, one of the co-founders of it, just bought a $1.4 million home, along with the four other homes that she owns. And months ago, Nicole Arbor, who's a comedian, you know, she was like, I don't care. I'm just going to say it. Black Lives Matter stealing your money. Like, where's all the money? Where's the money that's
Dude,
going
billions?
That's supposed to be going to, you know, black people and helping black businesses and all that. And then it was right after that, a couple days later, there was some like reports starting to trickle in at like some like, you know, infighting within the group and organization and all. And, you know,
one of the founders just got busted for using $450,000. Like he wasn't, I don't know what the person that bought the $1 million homes, I don't know what they do, but I believe that there was a guy who just kind of like ran one of the BLM kind of like chapters or something, and he was taking funds. But I mean, I'm not even trying to point out like that's what see, the sad part is I think that the people that think they're just like in other words, when we say, you know, Black Lives Matter, and we understand that that's coming from that lady who bought that $1 million home, you know what I mean? But I think that the sad part is the people that can't understand, like what do you mean all lives matter or blah blah blah, and then it's like, you know, BLM, like you don't support BLM, like, dude, I just because the name on it is black. Like, what if I made a fucking some type of fucking thing that I wanted to support that said that had a great name that you fucking don't agree with what the founders actually want to do? I understand Black Lives Matter. Yeah, I understand it. I feel like they created this wonderful system where, you know, they're fucking robbing people blind, and there's a lot of people out there that are actually trying to do good, and the people at the top have a whole different fucking agenda, and, you know, they just put Black Lives Matter on the front of it, and it's like, are you for that? Like, that sounds horrible to say you're not, you know?
Well, yeah, so it's a supercharged name, the same thing with you know, the Me Too movements. And I just watched a video of this guy that I follow on Instagram. He's 100 Days of Summer. And he broke down the creators of the Black Lives Matter movement. And when you look at their records, what they went to school for, and all their platforms and ideologies, you know, they're self-proclaimed Marxists. And when you go back in history and you look at how Marxism's, you know, communism, Marxist societies kind of like formed and molded, and how people manipulate you into like nice terms that like people like, oh, of course, Black Lives Matter. Like, how could you speak out against that? You know? So you're kind of like, it's kind of like forcing you into submission. You know what I'm saying? And I don't have all the details I wish I did. But this guy broke it down, and he went back to, I don't even know, man, 50, 60 years ago, when he talked about, and he was like, there were these people who, this guy, he was like a rich guy. He was into organizational, forming organizations and all this, and forming marches and rallies. Well, at one point in America, I guess it was kind of like frowned upon for women to smoke. Now, smoking was more socially accepted, but it was still kind of frowned upon for women to smoke. So this guy, basically, because it was a women's right, the push for, women's rights, this guy came up with this thing where he organized this rally, and he gave, all these women had cigarettes, and during some sort of protest, they were protesting one thing, and then to help push the women's right movement, he had all these women light up cigarettes, and he called them like freedom sticks or freedom torches, just like the Statue of Liberty. Woman, she's a woman, she has her torch in the air, and all these women were lighting up their freedom sticks, their freedom torches, whatever it is that they called them. So then all of a sudden, the narrative shift. You know what I'm saying? It was freedom sticks. Now it was liberating for the women to start smoking. And now look, you could argue and say, well, what would be the problem? Why would society have a problem with women smoking? And you'd be right.
Well, because how can you clean the fucking house if you're walking around smoking a fucking cigarette?
Yeah, exactly. but like you'd absolutely right. But like, why couldn't they? But this dude broke it down into how these organizations are able to spin things that they want you by like these sweet, endearing terms and the psychological manipulation behind it.
Yeah.
And basically that's kind of what was going on with Black Lives Matter, the organization. And now you're saying it. Now all these people are like, where the fuck's this money? What's going on? And
they do that.
The funniest thing is you got Marxists that want fucking communism and capitalism's fucking evil, buying $1 million fucking houses.
Doesn't make any sense.
No, they never all of these ideas that come out, they don't fucking make sense. They're always clashing.
And but the thing that I like, when you said, maybe I don't want to go back to that part of it but when you said, like you don't know if you're really conservative or how you became conservative or whatever, and then you said you always respect authority. And my thing is, I don't want to sit here and say I've always respected authority, but I always believe that you're supposed to respect authority. And when you don't respect authority, you have to understand the result.
Right.
You know what I mean? But moving from that, when I'm thinking like conservative, like all these things that we're talking about, like I actually I don't think I'm a Republican because of what a Republican once was. But like people keep saying too, like it's all shifting now. And I think that's another thing that's going on is we don't realize that, like, for example, a Republican was somebody who was like, I stand for big business and industry. Like we live in a world now where the Republicans, like I'm pretty sure the Carnegies and the Mellons and whatever, they were all Republican back in the day. Well, now we live in a world where the Republican is still kind of like the oil industry guy, the energy guy, the manufacturing guy, but those businesses are all dying out or being sold off. And the actual big industry now is Silicon Valley type industry. And that is now aligned with the left. And when I'm trying to figure out like what I am, like it's a totally different ball game because I don't believe that I'm a Republican in what a Republican is, but I also know that I ain't part of whatever the hell's going on the left right now. And when you're talking about, when you said they're Marxists, whatever, they really are. Like the founder of BLM was pardoned by Clinton. And what she was in jail for was she blew up a fucking office inside the Capitol with a fucking bomb that she planted. Like that is legit real. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the when you're saying like these people that are so they're against cat, it doesn't even make sense. And I heard somebody talking about the argument today of like how like, taxes should go up and and they're talking about like in some of these states where people are given where they're making these things of like 65%. And the argument, the people were making the argument where they were like, well, I understand how somebody might want that and how I do believe that you have to take from certain people, whatever. And I literally was just sitting there thinking in my head, like, why the fuck would you ever have to give somebody? That means you go to work and 65% is way too much. But this guy was talking about how like he already gives 45% like in taxes. And I'm saying to myself, so you go to work and it's like every day it's like 50-50 for someone else. How does that even make sense? And what does that even sound like a free world? And if you've got a problem with somebody making more, I don't even like it's fucked up because I feel like anybody who wants, it just seems like on the left, it's like a bunch of people blaming other people for what they don't have and then feeling like they should get some of it. And that's not a fucking a solution to a problem. That's, and it also takes it like, I mean, I don't understand how people don't like capitalism. Capitalism is you fucking, you can find a way to go out there and fucking join the fucking world and get back what you deserve. That's how I feel. I mean, I understand how it can get thwarted, but it just seems to me like I don't know what people want or what they're complaining about and what's the fuck's going on. Now we're getting into equity and you got Delta Airlines trying to give people like, they're going to hire more women and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I know I'm kind of going on like a weird rant with no real ending here, but to me, none of it makes fucking sense. I don't even know what people want. So when I am trying to establish where I lie with something that is completely different than what the far right want and what the entire left seem to be okay with,
Right.
So I don't know where I lie, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I was just listening to and going back to why I kind of like, I just can't identify with most of the left, the ideologies on the left is, there's a big story going on right now in the news world. Deshaun Watson. You know who that is?
Mm-mm.
He's a quarterback for the Houston Texans. He's 25, 26 years old, really good, talented player. Now, after the season, there was a big stink. He's like, I want out of Houston. I want to get traded. So he kind of was standing off and hoping to get traded this season. Well, now recently, I could be wrong on this, but I think there's upwards of 20 women that have come out and accused him of sexual assault.
Nice.
Now, at first he was saying, no, this is they're all false allegations. Now he's saying, well, there were a few, massages that led into consensual sexual encounters. Now, this is where, again, the left kind of like the identity politics kind of clash because he's a black quarterback. So, like, of course, like, there's history of the NFL trying to suppress, black quarterbacks and saying they're incapable of doing it and, all that, whatever. And here's a guy, he's a really good quarterback. Now he's accused of all these allegations and you're really not hearing a whole lot about it. Like, if this was a white guy, if this was Nick Foles or Carson Wentz, I'm sure it would be a big deal. The left would be running with it like crazy. Like, here's a white supremacist male, and all these women victims left in the dust. But also the problem is that the majority of the women are minority women. So you're kind of covering him up to an extent because he's a male, he's a black male, but you're also suppressing the minority women. So again, boom, clash. And you're not hearing about it. And there was just a lot of interesting things, that I heard recently. And when we talk about racism and the cops being racist and all this stuff, and somebody was making a great point. It was like, well, how come we're never talking about, are the cops sexist? Because why is it overwhelmingly men that are being pulled over and arrested by cops? Why are our prison systems overrun with men? Like, are they just letting women go?
Well, they're all gonna start transitioning and getting into the women's prisons.
Or they, well, that is happening. or the cops like not going after women. Like, what's going on? And somebody was like, well, because women aren't committing crimes. So that would kind of make sense, right? But you can't make the argument
the other way.
You can't make the argument with demographics of individuals and why they're getting arrested more frequently.
Well, and it also, what you're saying there too goes against like in other words, why is it that you can apply logic there? I know that's kind of what you meant, but what I mean is it's like you could be talking to someone and they would literally say, well, we studied like, in other words, if they were doing some type of funding where they needed to like help men, because they needed to have a little bit more discipline and they needed a little bit more recreational situations in their communities, more for men to do maybe. And then you could say, well, why not for women? And they would say, well, men generally commit more crimes. Okay, well, where did you come up with that logic? Well, that's what the data shows. And then when you get into anything else, you're not allowed to bring the data in. And so that's what I don't get is in any other scientific evaluation of anything, you use the data and the data speaks for itself. And if we don't start applying that data to our programs, then we're just going to fight a never ending battle. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
No, it always is. And so Jordan Peterson was recently on the Megyn Kelly podcast, and they got into a little disagreement, where Jordan Peterson was saying, it's men and women being in the workplace and working together. It's only been about 50 years, so it's complicated. And the conversation kind of like it went a little bit south because he was talking about women wearing makeup, and it's I forget exactly how he worded it, but basically what he was saying was everything is like sexual attention. And even though like Megyn Kelly was like, well, so you're saying that women want sexual attention from wearing makeup? And he was like, essentially, yes. And she was like, well, I don't agree with that. Like, I want to look good. And he was like, well, why do you want to look good? And she was like, well, I don't know. Maybe I have like a pimple or something and cover it up. And he was like, but why? Why do you want to do that? Like, you want to do that to attract a partner. There's biological elements to all this where like, that's what he was saying. He's like, deep down, that's what we're going for. You know what I mean? And he made a great point because he was like, the argument with women and the pay gaps between men and women. And he goes, it's kind of interesting though, that women make these arguments, but yet they're the men that they're attracted to the most. those are the men that society and women puts a high priority on as men to date. You know what I'm saying? So there's a contradiction there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So
do I know? I'm just waiting because what I think is crazy about all of this stuff is it's one thing to change something on paper. Like if you have a golf course and you don't allow women, you need to take that off.
right, right,
But this is the part that I can't buy into. You're no longer trying to like these things that they seem to be trying to push. It's no longer about it's this is why I think this whole thing of telling every white person that they're racist, but they don't realize it and whatever else. So basically, what they're trying to get you to do is any of these like it's we won't use race. We'll use what you're saying about with like Megyn Kelly. It's like if you think a fat woman is ugly, right? Which I don't have a problem with fat women. I just, maybe I've seen a few that are cute or whatever, but it's like you're trying to now tell someone like when you have that thought, and if you think that an overweight woman is unattractive, you're actually being a misogynist or you're being whatever. And so it's like they're trying to make you say inside yourself, like, I'm doing something misogynistic. And so I need to start to try and be attracted to heavy set women or something. You know what I
right.
mean? And so this is the shit I can't get behind where like if you're not seeing proper representation in a workplace and you go in and you look through their procedures and you find out that their procedures seem to have an element of racism or sexism in them, then you can, push them to, if you find like somebody's resume is like they're from Harvard and the guy seems to be declining these things or whatever, but to push somebody to demand that they like, don't like, if you're starting to try and tell somebody, well, if you don't pick somebody who went to this certain school or has this certain grade because it's because that's not their fault or whatever, like you can't force people to change their opinions of people privately. I really think so, even if it's a bad opinion, honestly. And so I was even having this thought the other day where it's like, look, there probably are racist people that own business out there. There's probably definitely a lot of sexist people who do one way or the other. There's definitely bar owners who only hire hot females.
Mhm.
If you ask me, and I don't think that there's a way to change that without actually overstepping your boundaries. In other words, if a guy who happens to be like that opens up a bar, as long as he doesn't break any actual like labor laws or anything, I think it's his own priority who he hires and what he does. Now, again, this goes back to what we say before, where you can fix it in your own whatever. If you go into a bar and you say, this guy seems to only hire chicks, doesn't, then maybe if everybody feels like there's something wrong with that, don't go in there. But what, again, bringing that into like how they want you to change things that are like innate in you, like, I'm not going to go to a strip club that has ugly women because they're trying to fucking keep due with and be politically correct about who they hire, and
Yeah.
they have a transgender in there and I got to take a lap dance from them because, well, if it would be the right thing to do. And that's why I think it's funny. None of this shit hits porn or hits like shit that people understand of who people really are. Like, I don't see anybody complaining like the way that they title or hire in porn or in Hollywood, or you don't see people going after strip clubs in the way they'd be going after other work environments. And I understand they're very different things, but it's like, look, I the reason why I can't get behind this stuff is I've worked in an industry where you lose shifts to people that are more attractive than you, and it's like that's what happens all the time. Is it right? I don't fucking know. I also know that if I owned a bar, I wouldn't want to hire someone who, you know, caused like that you didn't want to be around. This is what I mean. It's not that I'm even saying something about ugly people. It's like you actually have to hire people based on things that go with how you feel about them. So doesn't mean that they're attractive in the sense of physically because they put makeup on or they're a certain way, but they have to be a certain way, you know? And if you start forcing people to change, I guess my struggle with it is, so next time you're interviewing somebody, you might be like, I usually don't hire these kind of people, because when I say these kind of people, I mean, it could be someone who doesn't seem like they have a bubbly personality, but you have to now hire them because you have to somehow look inside yourself and say, maybe I'm being a certain way. Like, I don't think that that's fair or right to anybody. I think if you own a business and you've come as far as to own a small business and you decide that you only want to hire young teenage kids because they seem to be, they work cheaper and they seem to be more active and they seem to be friendlier and be more motivated. That's your opinion. That's your gut feeling. You shouldn't have to go hire a 45-year-old man because that's what you're supposed to do now. Does that make sense in any way?
Yeah, I mean, dude, look, when Hooters was huge, you went to Hooters because they usually had hot chicks. When they got sued over their standards and the standards went low and they were just hiring any, Jill, Sandy, or Sue off the street, it just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it just kind of went downhill. And a lot of times, when it comes to the sexism, aspect, there's a lot of hypocrisies in that too, and one thing that these two guys, and I'm drawing a blank, they're on YouTube. These two black guys who, well, I don't even know. I'm pretty sure they're both black. Or the one guy, he might be like Indian or something. I'm not exactly sure, but they talk a lot about social issues and all. And they were talking about sexism and being men and how the media kind of portrays certain things. And it was like really interesting because I never really thought about it. But basically what they were saying was like, with women, what can't they turn on? What TV can't they turn on and like see women mocking men? Like, it's cool. It's like the in thing, right? Like, you could turn on The View and they'd be like, oh, girl, he ain't measuring up, in the bedroom, in the bank account, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. And they all just laugh and they're like, oh, yeah, girl, go get yourself somebody new, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Tell me a show where a man can go on there and be like, she didn't have big enough tits for me, man. I like fucking blondes. This chick was brunette, like, and she's not cooking me dinner, or she's not cleaning the house, or she's not pulling her weight. She's not making enough money. Like, there's not only is there not that, but there's, and I'm not saying that all the conversations are just like that. I mean, a lot of times, a lot of shows, they're talking about women and just relationships in general. But there's no outlet for men to really turn on and watch other men and kind of like listen to who, how to be a man or how to do this. And it was just a really interesting aspect. And when you look at it, I watched this video, this one woman that I know shared, and it talked about how, height is a determining factor for a lot.
Oh, like Tommy and his height again.
Well, because it was like the overwhelmingly amount of CEOs are over 6 feet tall. And, it had all these women lined up and they were choosing, who to go out on a date with. And it was like, they did like a lineup and it was like from like tallest to shortest. They gave the shortest dude like every title you can imagine. Huge bank account. He was, generous. He was like working at, pet shelters and saving kids from cancer and all of these things. But he was like 5'4". And the girls are like, well, I don't know. He's just I don't know. Like, and they don't really want to come out and say it, right?
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know. That other guy, he's like 6'5". Like, what's he do? Like, oh, he's a
Yeah.
short order
He's
cook.
on an unemployment.
He's on it. He works the fry later at McDonald's. Like, I don't know. Maybe he'll become a manager one day. Like like they always kind of like look. They were trying to justify certain things, and eventually you would get to. They just kept adding titles to the shortest dude, and then the girls were like, well, I guess. I mean, I guess, but it was all material, money based. And again, like this is not, these are things that, going back to us as primates. I mean, men were responsible for taking care of the family unit. You know what I mean? Like women took care of the kids and the men were hunters and gatherers, and that's what they did. And if there was an intruder, if there was anything, men were on the front line. So it's kind of weird how, even though we've kind of gotten to this point where we're super advanced now, women can run corporations and all that, and they're fully capable of doing those things, but there are still things inside of them that are just ingrained, like a psychological, biological attraction to certain traits in men. And men are the same thing with women. You know
Well,
what I mean?
well,
But as a man, like we're condemned
well,
for maybe our certain traits that we're kind of attracted to. And not only that, but we don't have those outlets, mostly in media, where like men can go in and talk and have like real conversations, because even this conversation that I'm having and what I'm saying could be frowned upon in some circles, and some dudes will be like, fuck's this guy talking about? Like, what's this guy want to talk about his fucking feelings? And like a woman could take that as like a female trait and be like, well, I don't want to, like, I want a guy to go bust somebody's fucking head open.
well,
Like,
but wait, though, what you're saying. So, like, I had a thought when you were talking about like, and women can run businesses and they can have their own whatever, right? But
right,
if you had an opinion, right, of why, say, you didn't want a woman to run your business, you would be an asshole, right?
right, right.
But now I'm even like laughing because I'm thinking in my head, like, yet I'm supposed to accept that some men feel that they are really women, right? So where I'm trying to justify the two is, it's like you're trying to tell me that there's no psychological difference between men and women until you're trying to explain to me how this man feels like a woman. So he psychologically, internally, innately has different feelings. Therefore, if I was to say, well, some women see, if I was to say like, so, well, women tend to be, I've heard the argument before about like when people would say about a woman president, something like they would handle the country differently. Not that it would be better or worse, but what they say is like, people would say shit like, well, a wartime woman president might be different than a male president.
Right.
But so the thing I'm saying is, to say that, to have that thought, I don't have an opinion, nor do I know anything about whether they would actually handle it better or worse. But to even say that they might have a different kind of emotional way that they run a business or the country or whatever would be ludicrous. But yet in other situations, I have to accept that being a man or a woman comes with different emotional feelings. So if you're a man who wants to be a woman, it's because you have these internal feelings that aren't masculine. Well, what does it mean then to be masculine or feminine? You know what I mean? Like, these are innate things. And when you were saying how you don't see in the media people, a woman can go in the media and be like, oh, I want to, like, or not, forget even being in the media, because they'll at least be a little PC about, like you said, they didn't want to say that the guy was short. If you go on social media, a woman will fucking say whatever the hell she wants. I hate
Right.
short men, whatever.
Right.
But what you got to laugh about is, so I'm a jerk off if I say I want a woman to stay home and clean the house and cook. But so if you want a man who has this kind of income and looks like this and does this and that, well, then what the fuck do you want to do? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so you want a rich man, but then if that rich man is like, hey, you're going to be hanging around my fucking mansion, why don't you maybe cook tonight and fucking, you know what I mean? Like now you're a, whatever you call it, male chauvinist. I don't know what the hell. I don't even know what the words are. You're just, the bottom line is technically there is no words anymore. If you're a man who acts like a man, you're an asshole.
Just learn your fucking pronouns. That's all you need to worry, concern yourself with.
Oh.
But I mean, and that's what I mean. So like, there's just these so many different elements of leftist ideas that they just kind of want to throw everybody in a blender and come out with the same smoothie. Like everything's vanilla or well, sorry, I don't want to.
Definitely not.
No. Maybe it's a swirl of vanilla and chocolate, but there's no taste. There's no difference. And it's just not, it's weird. And that's why I'm like, what is the end game here?
Well, when you said they want to throw it into a blender and have everything come out the same, this is the thing. I feel like we've kind of come to that kind of bridge in some things where things were going fine. They were in the blender. And so what I'm a little nervous about is when you say, what's the end game? Like, I don't think they want to put everything in a smooth, like, I don't think that there is ever going to be a moment where there's equality is accepted or something. I don't even I personally feel that they're getting to this point where it's impossible to do the things that they want to do. Like it doesn't, it doesn't make, I mean, and the bottom line is too, is if you read if we're just going to talk about BLM for a moment, their manifesto of what they want doesn't even make sense. Like they want to destroy the family and stuff like that. Like, why would that even make sense?
Yeah. And when I say like, they want everything to throw everything in a blender and come out the same, it's kind of like they want to kind of like create equality through eliminating identity. You know what I'm saying?
By forcing identity on you.
No, because there's I don't know, I guess in a way, because when it comes to men and women, there's no identity. They want to play this game where there's no differences in men and women. Everything's the same. So like you can't even as a child, like you don't know your sex, your gender. You know what I mean? Like it's fluid. It's ever changing, I guess. But then strangely, when it comes to race, that's all they kind of want to focus on the differences. But again, hey, there's, as we talked about earlier, and one of the co-founders of BMLM buying all these houses. I mean, look, there's a lot of fucking money to be made. And a lot of these people that are pushing these ideas, they're all fucking making bank off of it. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man.
But when you're saying, but here's something too, like, honestly, because we were talking about earlier with like where you can say, you can say that women don't commit crimes or whatever, but then you can't say honestly, this is the part where I started to get nervous. Is it seems that you can pretty much say anything, like in other words, the argument is okay when you're making it and you're saying it in favor of women. Whenever you're using the data and it favors women or doesn't favor women or whatever, you can use the data. It just seems like the only thing you can't throw into that blender is white men. So what I mean is the only thing they don't want in the fucking smoothie is white men. So if they want everything to be like, if they don't want to put labels on everything or whatever, it's like the only person that they don't want to put the label on or whatever is like, in other words, you can say my baby is a transgender or my baby is whatever. But the only time it's, or like, in other words, a woman still wants to be like, well, I'm a woman. Like I don't see anybody attacking straight women. You know what I mean? It just seems to be like the only time there's a problem is when a guy's like, well, I want my kid to grow up to be a man like me. Then you're a fucking asshole. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The
But
white male's the pineapple on a pizza.
yeah, I've never heard the argument.
It's
I've never heard the argument of like a woman saying that she wants her daughter to grow up to be a woman.
right.
It seems like what it is like women can choose, and therefore women have the right to choose. So therefore women can decide to be men, can decide to be trans, whatever, lesbian, gay, straight, whatever they want. If they're straight, it's I'm a woman, hear me roar, I'm an independent woman. So it's like another element of like, oh, I'm a woman. Like I'm a woman and I want this. I can run a business. I can be independent or I can want a guy and I can pick and choose. And I want a guy who's a height that I like, who makes the money that I like, whatever else. But if you're a white male and you say, well, I just want a woman that does this or that, or I want to raise my kids like this, that's the thing that doesn't seem to, that nobody wants to hear. It doesn't make any sense.
I feel like, with the long hair and everything you got going on, like after the podcast, like I imagine you like putting on a little Shania Twain, like, man, I feel like a woman. Actually, the whole time you were going on that rant, that song popped in my head.
but dude, even you saying that, it's like, yeah, I'll grow my hair. Like this is the thing. I don't give a fuck. That's why this whole thing makes me so mad is I know for a fact that I'm the first guy that don't give a fuck what someone is. And I feel like I'm not alone. Like I feel like that went pretty far. Like there's a lot of guys out there that consider themselves to be masculine men that don't necessarily it's almost like, all right, we've kind of reimagined what it means to be masculine. I mean, we kind of talked about that before on here. Like masculine doesn't mean, I throw a hammer over my shoulder every day and I'm tough and I'm this and I'm that. Man, I think masculine is like, to be honest with you, in the world we live in now, it's masculine to say, I ain't fucking putting up with that. I'm like, it's masculine to say, I'm going to do what I want to do. That's to me where they pushed masculinity to. And now you have people that they don't have a problem with gay people. They might have a couple of things like, look, I don't want to kind of push it on my kids. I don't want it. And like that's the part where it's starting to get scary is like, it's like, oh, okay. You've accepted us. You're very accepting. Well, you want your kid to be gay? Well, no, I don't. Oh, well, we need to beat that the fuck out of you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want my kid not to be gay because I'm a homophobe or whatever. Everybody wants their kid to be I feel like when you have a child, you idolize or you imagine or dream that child is going to be you living on. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna be you. And so any little thing that might not kind of be that way is kind of hard maybe for some people to accept. And so, when you see then your daughter maybe dating someone you don't like or whatever, that's where all that comes from. I mean, it's horrible to think that, maybe some guys are out there like just completely racist, don't want their daughter to be with a black guy, X, Y, and Z. But what I'm saying is it's like you do want to, it goes back when I said the white man, like there's nothing wrong with a black guy saying like, I want I want to be, I feel like a black man and a black woman should be together, and have a black baby. There's nothing wrong with that being said from that side.
Right.
Seems like if it's said on any other side, it's fucking racist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna get killed for saying that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's it's unfortunate, man, and it just goes to show like human beings are so complicated, and it's just not an easy fix, and certainly not going to be fixed by any politician that's just up there to sell you, false hopes and dreams. And going back to the male masculinity thing, I think when I mentioned that there's really no place for men to go and turn to and like have like real conversations, this goes back to one of our first podcasts and how is Joe Rogan so popular? Why is he so popular? And I think that a lot of men gravitate towards him because he is very masculine, and masculine in a way that he talked about recently. I think it might have been with Jocko William. I don't really remember, but he was like, I think I think toxic masculinity comes out of an insecurity of not knowing who you are and not having purpose. And he was like, masculine men are confident. Like they're not dangerous. They're confident because they know what they want. They know how to go after what they want and need. And I think that's why a lot of men are turning to people like Jordan Peterson and David Goggins and Joe Rogan, and looking up to these men for advice and guidance, because it was lacking in so many ways. You know what I mean?
Well, think about this. In the 90s, we wouldn't have had a need. Well, people might have. He would have still been considered intellectual. I'm sure he's been around that long. But in the 90s, I would have never seeked out a podcast where a guy would be talking about masculinity in the way they do now. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like,
no, it was because it wasn't under attack.
Yeah, like it just
we're in a generation now where we're telling men that it's destructive and dangerous to be masculine.
And so this goes back to when you were saying, I don't really know how I became a conservative or if I even like call myself a conservative. I feel like I went through my whole life where it was like, I know who I am, whatever. And then you'd be watching, the political thing would be like, these laws are racist, whatever. And you'd be like, yeah, they probably are. Like, I can understand that. Okay. And then it was like, women need to be in the workplace. Oh, I didn't know they had it that tough. Yeah, they should be. And I've watched the progression, and now I'm at this place where I'm like, all right, wait a second. You know what I mean? Like when I say watch the progression, a lot of it I understood. Like I said, it's very easy to say like there's a golf club that won't let certain people in there.
Yeah.
That needs to be changed. And when I was 16 years old, I'm like, that needs to be changed. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I'm sure there's other elements or whatever, and we got to this place where it's like now, like, and when I say that I've always been that way, like it went to a place as a guy who never really saw anything worthy of pushback. Like I never got mad, like they should be able to put whoever they want in a golf course. You know what I mean? That was never a case with me. But then it got to a place where it started to interfere with me in a way where I'm confident and positive that if it's bothering me, it seems to be a little unfair or one-sided or doesn't make sense. And, at least to me, I guess. And that's where, I feel like I remember, I don't know if I said this on the podcast already, but I was sitting at the bar working or whatever. And I seen this lesbian couple come in. They started making out and stuff. And my buddy was like, yo, check out these chicks making out or whatever. And I looked at him and I said, you know what's funny? I said, I think that's great. Good for them. I said, it actually kind of fucking, turns me on. But the other one was kind of like a man,
Right.
But I looked at him and I said, here's the fucking problem with the world. I said, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, don't get me wrong, I would have giggled and everybody here would have like looked over and I would have said, look at the two girls making out or something. Because I would have been younger and thought it was funny but not really understanding why I thought it was funny. I didn't have a opinion of them. Like I didn't think badly of them, but it would have been different and unusual. And so they fought against that attitude, and that attitude went away. And I said, here's the problem. They fought with me to accept them. And now we're at a point where I've accepted them, and now they're forcing me to fucking change. Like, in other words, all they wanted was for us to accept them into our society as regular people. And I think they've made major progress. But now I feel like they're trying to change society in a way where, like, in other words, they saw something where they were being not accepted in society. They pushed to be accepted in society. They're accepted in society. Now they want to change society and make me accept that. And it's a step too far.
And make you unaccepted.
Yeah. Like, that's what I mean. Like,
yeah. It's a weird dynamic because they did struggle with that. And we actually talked about that a little bit on the podcast, how like in particular, the gay community, how like they had to stay silent and they kind of like had to stay in the closet, and now, I think, I don't know what the numbers are. I don't know statistically, but I'm pretty sure that the majority of Americans are kind of like, whatever, gay people, they should have every right that we do. And now it's turned into this thing where like, now
I have to go in the closet with
now, like certain people, they're forcing certain people in the closet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like it's a weird dynamic. It's unfortunate. It's sad.
And the thing I think is kind of crazy when you really think about it is it was all done in like, in other words, it flipped that way in a short period of time, like, in other words, people coming out, and I feel like that's a late 80s, 90s thing, like where it was like, the push for like accept the LGBT whatever community. And it's like, that's a lot of progression to make it to where you're now basically fucking forcing the hand, like whatever, however you said it was better, where it's like now they're kind of forcing me out. Like, in other words, in 30 years, they went from being in the closet to get the fuck out of here to me. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like they went from just accept us for who we are to all men need to fucking have their fucking penis chopped off.
Yeah. Like they fought to have a seat at the table. Now everybody's sitting at the table and they're like, what'd you say? Get the fuck out of here. Put them in the bathroom.
Dude, I
don't know if anybody will get that reference.
But I'll tell you, it's the world we live in, man. It's another thing too. And then I go outside. I don't know, like, I mean, I've only been to the bar here and there, through all this, and I don't necessarily see it. And that's another thing that I think is kind of messed up, is the only time I see it is when I'm in a situation where I also, like, in other words, the only time I've seen race come up, sex come up, or whatever, is when someone who I know for a fact is in the wrong and they're using it. You know what I mean? Like, but when I go to work and there's a gay guy at my bar who was my friend, we just say hello to each other. Like, if it's black guy or whatever, or if we hire a female, or if we hire a black birth, like, I don't see any of the shit that they're saying going on until something happens negatively to one of those people, which in most cases, because I consider myself to be a pretty fair person, it'll be like a table doesn't get sat right away because we're busy and they're kind of giving you the dirty look because they're lesbians. You know what I mean? And like, they're implying that they'll even say something like, oh no, I'm pretty sure I know why you didn't come over to see us or something. And it's like, well, that's not the case. But now this is never an issue in here amongst any of the people that come in here, but you didn't get sat right away. So now it's an issue. And that's, I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't see it the way that they say it in normal life. I don't see a problem at my bar with men being toxic males and racist white supremacists. You know what I mean? And maybe it's because of where I am. Maybe it exists in other places. I don't know.
Well, here's something that I'll break down in layman's terms that I was thinking about. I don't know, maybe last week, and just thinking about the world and like how it's so complicated and how we're trying to fix, like we're overly trying to fix really complicated issues, and we're ultimately making them worse. And I was just, and again, this is breaking it down in simple terms. I work with a guy. I work with a couple guys that, no matter what happens, and they're never happy. We have two different departments. We got highway guys, we got trash guys. Now, the highway guys get certain privileges, the trash guys get certain privileges. The trash guy, and because of those certain privileges, we're always clashing. The highway guys always saying, you guys can do this, you can do that. And then trash guys go to the highway guys and they're like, well, you guys can do this, you can do that, you're not working as hard, blah blah blah, blah, whatever. And then I even have a guy that I work with in particular that, he was working on the back of the trash truck for years. And then he moved up to driver, he was making more money, it's easier physically on him, but he doesn't really like driving. So he's pissed off about that. And then because, there's times where he gets done because he has to take the second load out. There's times when he comes back and other guys aren't there anymore. Like some of the guys left. So he thinks that he's getting shafted, even though he's making more money. It's easier on his body, but he feels though, because he's getting back and now certain guys aren't there anymore because they got to leave, he's getting shafted. It's such a complicated dynamic. And the only way to make it right is there's no privileges for everybody and everybody's flat the same. That's it. That's it. And that's the only way that this world is going to function properly. Like
Yeah.
if things aren't straight across the board, like, look, everything's even, everything's the same for everybody. So this way you can't complain. Like that's really the only way it's really going to work.
But
Even then you're going to have people that will complain. Obviously, well, I work harder, or I should make this much. If it's all the same, then I should be getting paid. You're still going to have that. But the people in the upper management and be like, tough shit. Like that's just the way it is. Like all the rules, everything all apply the same. You know what I'm saying? But like, so I don't know, man. I looked at that and I'm like, it's just just to compare that to the rest of the world in a very simple way. It's just like, you're just never going to make everybody happy. And all politicians do is get up on TV and try to promise that if you vote for me, I'll make your life better. And by making your life better, you're taking away the quality of life from somebody else. You know what I mean? And they're just all trying, they're trying to sell to white people. They're trying to sell to women. They're trying to sell to gay people. They're trying to sell to black people, Mexicans. And it's like, when you start selling to everybody the same message, maybe we'll have a chance again. But nobody's really doing that. So,
and then even like you said earlier, though, like, how when you're talking about Watson, how it's like he's got these 20 girls and they happen to be black and it's just kind of getting shoved under the rug or whatever because it whatever. My scary thing with the politicians is they've always promised this shit. Why all of a sudden, or like in other words, the politicians were always one thing. Some people might buy into some of their bullshit, whatever, but I think everybody always had a skepticism. Like if I talk to somebody, the guy might be like, the Democrats are pieces of shit too, but fucking Republicans are just assholes, so whatever. we live in a world now where people actually like, it just seems they believe the shit. And maybe maybe they should, because they're also seem to be pushing for some of this crazy stuff. But when you broke down what you said about work, I think I said something similar like that on here too. That's why I say the thing of, whenever I'm in these situations, the only way to do it in your own world is to give them what they want. Give them what they want. And what I mean by that is not from the level of you're the boss giving them what they want. Like, I mean, I've been at my job, people have made those complaints constantly about me. So I mean, it's even happening now. So what I'll do is, it's like, see how you said that, you have a guy who's driving and then he's complaining. I've used this as to say of why you can never, ever fix this problem with people. And that's why I see that early on. And I know that I'm going to lose the argument, because they're always going to complain. It's always going to come back to whatever. And every time you remove what they're complaining about, they complain about something else. So what I do is literally give them exactly what they want, in the sense of, if they're complaining about what I do, oh, he's this or he's that, whatever, dude, you take someone like that and make them work one of your shifts. They don't want it. Like, the whole thing is you have to give it time. But I've been in this situation where somebody would be like, well, I don't get why you always have Saturday night. And then what happens is I say, I'll give you Saturday night. I work every single Saturday night. I never take off. I'm here every single Saturday night. The reason why I got Saturday night was because we used to kind of give it to one or the other, but everybody always wanted off, and I just ended up with Saturday night. So it's a real easy solution. The minute somebody starts crying to my boss, and I get sat down, because I've done this, where then you're in a meeting and they're implying that you're like some greedy dickhead, like, oh, well, it's really easy for you to say. You just say, okay, you want Saturday? Take Saturday. No, take it forever. Take it.
Right.
And then I solve the problem for them. And 3 or 4 weeks later, guaranteed, my boss is like, in other words, if they ask me to work Saturday anytime in the future, I just look at them and laugh, and then I take Saturday back. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so but what you also stated is very true too, is I think we all do it. Even I do it. And I'm not saying I'm perfect with this kind of stuff, but it's funny because you said the word, like, everybody's got their little privileges, their little fringe
little
benefits.
Perks. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, it's like, I could sit there all day and say, the guys in the kitchen get to eat whatever they want,
Right.
the guys behind the bar get to drink whatever they want,
Right.
And the whole thing is that if we just accept that, no, I guess it's not that we have to accept that we have privileges, but you have to you can't just look at the privileges. You have to take into account, it goes back to Bernie Sanders constantly attacking Elon Musk. Like, Elon Musk ain't some guy who just like fucking got handed all this stuff either. I mean, he is a fucking genius who created things that the average guy couldn't even fucking dare even dream to do. And in some cases, he put everything he had on the line to take that next step, or to try out his other thing. So, but then people look at someone like him and go, oh God, it's not fair that someone like him has so much money. I don't know if it's fair. I don't know. I don't know if there's things he could be doing to whatever, but I don't think he owes me anything. I don't think that I have to accept that he achieved the things that he achieved because if I want to believe I would be capable of it as well, he did it. He put his mind to it and he put in the work. So some people are entitled to some benefits that you're not. And then you have to take a look at yourself and then look at your benefits. Well, if I'm getting every Saturday night and I make more money, well, guess what? You get to be home with your family. I don't have a family. You know why I don't have a family? Because every girlfriend I've ever dated hated the fact that I worked every single Saturday night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's all different ways to see it,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a great way to end this is one thing you mentioned, Elon Musk. And I just saw that he thinks that he could recreate Jurassic Park. So I'll tell you what, Elon Musk may be the great equalizer, because if we start having fucking a bunch of T-Rexes running around, we're not going to be worrying about who the fuck, who's
Wait,
black,
did he
who's
really
white.
say that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there was some article that I saw that, yeah. So T-Rex isn't going to care if you're man, woman, if you're trans, if you're black, if you're gay. They're just going to fucking eat everybody equal. They're equal opportunist eaters. So bring it on.
Yeah. Do you think the T-Rex was bitching that he had small arms and it wasn't fair?
Yeah. Look at that fucking. Look at what were those ones with the long necks?
Yeah, I was thinking about them. The brontosaurus.
Brontosaurus. Yeah, look at that fucking brontosaurus there with his fucking long ass neck. That fucking prick. God gave me these short ass arms and gave him that long ass neck. You fucking prick, you.
No, but that's a perfect example. Then you look at him and you go, real easy for you to say with your long neck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
And who the fuck's that pterodactyl think he is, flying the fuck all over here like he owns a place? The fuck out of here with that guy.
Dude, I really hope he recreates Jurassic Park. I would go. I would go.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I would go. I watched those movies.
But is he going to try and attempt to do it?
I don't know. But I saw this article that they think it could be possible. So, how do you know?
You know what? I'll tell you. I would have 5 years ago. I would have said, sounds like a bad idea. Fucking where we're at now in society, just go for it, dude.
Yeah,
make it happen.
Yeah, it'll be fucking dinosaurs and robots running the fucking planet.
Dude, they're not going to need us anymore, especially white men. Oh man.
We're fucked.
All right. Well, Tom, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. I'm back at work, baby, making that money. For how long? Who knows?
Yeah.
Till the fourth wave. Be wary of the fourth wave. All right. Well, Tom, anything else you want to say to anyone before we end it?
Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I hope you enjoyed today. And we'll definitely have something else out for you in another week. So thanks a lot for listening, guys. We're trying our best to keep up with you guys. So, all right.